As I was researching my case for this week, I kept running into information about another missing persons case. Now, I don't know if the disappearances are connected. It really doesn't seem like it in my eyes, but there is a very interesting common denominator. They're both soldiers, and they both went missing from Fort Hood. As a matter of fact, over the past year, 3 soldiers have gone missing from Fort Hood. In one of those cases, we actually have some answers, but for 2 others, we don't. So today we're turning on the searchlight for Gregory Morales Wedel and Vanessa Guillen. Welcome to another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today, and let's get right into it. First, let's learn a little bit about Fort Hood. Fort Hood is a U.S. military post located in Killeen, Texas. The post is named after Confederate General John Bell Hood. It is located halfway between Austin and Waco within the U.S. state of Texas. Fort Hood is an installation of the United States Army. In April 2014, the Fort Hood website lists over 45,000 assigned soldiers and 8,900 civilian employees, with Fort Hood covering over 214,000 acres, making it one of the largest military bases in the world by area. And between the area and the population there, I mean, we're talking a pretty significant sized town. So are disappearances bound to happen when you have a population like that? Absolutely. 3 within 1 year for that type of number, maybe that's a little steep, but we do have to consider the fact that this is a military installation, and some people do wind up wanting to leave that occupation. Now, is that what's going on in these cases? For one of them in particular, I really don't think so. For one of them, there's a possibility, and for the third one, I'm really on the fence. I don't know, but we've got a lot of information to cover, so let's keep rolling. Jumping over to foxsanantonio.com, this is a picture of Gregory Wedel Morales, and I've seen his name kind of flip-flopped, but it looks like on his military gear that he actually has Wedel as his last name. So you might hear some different references, or if you go searching for information yourself, you might see that last name kind of switch around back and forth. He has not been seen since Monday night. This is from back in August of 2019. He's a soldier at Fort Hood. His mother says he is scheduled to process out of the military in September. So according to her, it doesn't make sense that he went AWOL. And we're talking, just about the last week of August where he goes missing. Even if he's scheduled to get out of there at the end of September, you're talking about at a most 5 weeks of work after that type of time commitment, and he would be discharged, have all his benefits, have whatever money that he has worked to earn while he's there. So I think she raises a really good point. The timing of it seems very strange for this to be a situation where he went AWOL. There is a NamUs profile that has been generated for him. Let's just take a look at it real quick so we can get his vital stats. Interestingly, several of the articles I'm seeing, just like this one, don't have his actual vital statistics. They have some pictures, so at least we can take a look at who we're looking for, but nothing in terms of height, weight, which can be some pretty important information when you're looking for somebody. Here we can see in his demographics, he went missing at the age of 23, currently is 24 years old. First name Gregory, middle name Scott, and then last name they have Morales Wedel. For nicknames, KG, Wedel, Gregory Scott Wedel, Gregory Scott Morales. Stands at 6 feet tall, weighs about 155 pounds, white Caucasian. Date of last contact, here they have it as August 19th, 2019. Location, Fort Hood. For circumstances, the missing person was reported missing by his wife and mother from the Fort Hood, Killeen area. There has been no contact from him through any means, to include cell phone, social media, etc. We're going to learn some information about things that were going on in his life at this point. I don't know if they're going to really help us understand his disappearance or not. But one of those things in particular is it seems like he was going through a divorce at this time. For physical description, black hair, brown eyes, no other physical distinctive features noted. So I don't know if there are any tattoos or not. Quite honestly, now that I'm looking at 2 NamUs profiles generated for missing persons cases based out of military investigations, I'm not seeing some great detail. In the second case we're really going to focus on in today's episode, Vanessa's case, they don't even have a picture on her NamUs profile. Clothing and accessories, we've got no information. Transportation, we have no information, and that's really interesting because he's missing with his car. We're going to get some more of those details as we roll forward. Let's go to a Facebook post that was actually put out by his mother. So in terms of the car, he just bought a black 2018 Kia Rio. So it had paper tags on it. Obviously, he had just bought it, I believe, the week before, so he didn't have time to get his regular license plates. They do have the VIN number posted here. Of course, I'll have this link in the sources down below. So if you think you need the VIN number for some reason, please click that link, come here, and you will see the VIN number. One person says he's in hiding. This is according to information she was getting by early September already. Another says in a hotel in Temple, maybe. And a third that he is being held for money owed. There is a big part of me that struggles when I hear family members go through this, because I really do believe that most people out there want to be helpful, and sometimes their information just isn't information that actually helps the case. But then I've spoken to enough families that I know that there is a small number of people that are actually trying to capitalize on these situations. And we're already getting a little sense of it here. I mean, the guy's only been missing a few weeks by the point that his mother's talking about this. Apparently he owed someone some money. We're going to see that that's just the start of it. But let's continue here. Please don't try and get your 15 minutes of fame sending my hopes up and then crashing down. Be the good and kindness this world needs, and continue to share and or pray, and don't leave vague messages. It breaks my heart to know that people would do this to families that are in this type of pain. I can't imagine that you don't have the humanity to look within yourself and say, oh, am I hurting this other person? This complete stranger that I don't know that's terrified because her son is missing. But yeah, I want to try to score some money from her. It's so disappointing for me. But let's continue here. Over at kwtx.com, here is a picture of Private Gregory Morales, according to this article. The FBI is investigating after an attempt to extort money from the mother of missing Fort Hood Private Gregory Morales. She received a Facebook message that claimed her son was being held hostage for money that he owed to someone. First, they asked me how much I could pay, and then came back with $15,000, she says. Then she got an email from someone else. He was saying he had Greg, and he was fine, but they were going to kill him in 10 days if he didn't have the money. The email included an edited picture of her son's face, she said, on someone else's body in an unfamiliar living room. So they took a picture of him that they probably found on the internet from all the posters and press that has been kicking up around this, and did a bad Photoshop job to make it look like they had him somewhere. I had another lady send me an email saying she would give me the address he's being held at for 2 Bitcoins. That translates to about $21,000. The agency says it often sees what it calls virtual kidnapping schemes in cases along the U.S.-Mexico border in which scammers target vulnerable people claiming to be holding missing loved ones and demanding ransom. The publicity that is supposed to help find a person can also make their families a target. Such a terrible thing to think about, and I really hope the FBI prosecutes those cases or investigates those cases hard. And then when the prosecutors come in, I really hope that they make a very strong push to make those people pay in those cases. Quite honestly, in those international cases, I don't even know how that works. I don't even know if there's a way for them to make people outside of this country to hold them responsible in cases like this. I should probably do an episode just about that. Unfortunately, it comes up quite frequently when I'm speaking to family members. Despite the risk, Wedel is making sure her son's case is not forgotten as she waits to hear from someone who truly knows what happened to him. Another tough thing about these cases is the primary investigation is being done by the investigative division, the criminal investigative division, or the CID on Fort Hood. And they're not exactly being extremely open about a lot of the details. Like here, we really don't even know where he was last seen, what time of day it was, who it was by. And they could just do some simple confirmations. I mean, we know his car is missing, so pretty clear that he probably left the base. Could they just come out and say, we know that he went off base at this particular time over at this particular exit, and it looked like he headed east or headed west or whatever. Just some simple confirmations to kind of help the public, once again, know how to help them. That's something I'm constantly pushing in these videos, because I get that certain aspects of investigations need to be kept under wraps. Something like this, a missing persons investigation, and if you really want the public's help, which there's enough press here for me to assume that is the case, that they actually do want the public's help, but without key information like that, it's just asking for pulling stuff out of the air. If you specifically said this intersection, this time of day, all of a sudden that might trigger things for certain people. Hey, I work over there. Yeah, I do remember when I was leaving, I saw a black Kia that was taken off and it went in this direction, or something happened. There's a case, I actually didn't cover it here on the channel, but there was a case of 2 young ladies that went missing recently, and it wound up that they had been found. Their vehicle unfortunately had an accident and they shot off the road. And someone actually saw what they thought was the vehicle kind of careening off the road, and they were kind enough to try to call help. But when people came out, when emergency response came out, they couldn't find the vehicle. They didn't see anything that was happening. And then a number of days later, unfortunately, the bodies of the girls were found. There are accidents that happen, and there is that information that might help investigations like this. But once again, you got to know the location, and you got to hope that information gets to the person that has the knowledge that can then pick up the phone. So let's continue here, learning a little bit more about Gregory's case. Now, I did look into the car a little bit, because the first thing I'm wondering, this is a modern car, does it have some type of tracking on its own? This is a Forbes article that's actually a review of the 2018 specifically Kia Rio, but this is for a model called the EX, and I'm not 100% sure what model he has, but here's just a paragraph on it. An upgraded UVO3 infotainment and telematics system is standard on the 2018 Rio EX. The system features 19 services through Kia's latest downloadable app. These include tracking the vehicle's location and diagnostics. So the way that's written leads me to believe that you can download their app, and using their app, you could actually track the location of your vehicle. If this is the same model, first of all, I'm pretty sure he has car payments to make. His mom confirmed that. So I'd be very surprised if the dealership didn't have some way to try to kick on that feature and try to figure out where their car is. Because if he's not making payments, essentially it's their car. I mean, even if he is making payments until it's paid off, it's kind of still their car. So I'm curious about this, because it seems like there is tracking that should be available on the vehicle. We're also not hearing anything about cell phone tracking that could be going on in this case, and is there some aspect to that as well? So not even 2 months after Gregory goes missing, we then have this story pop up over at kxxv.com. Search party scheduled to find 2 Fort Hood soldiers. And here we see in the images, we've got someone else as well. Sergeant Henry Benjamin has been missing from Fort Hood for days. His family is making arrangements to fly to the Lone Star State from Florida to search for him alongside other community members. During the search, they will also look for Private Gregory Wedel Morales. Wedel Morales drives a 2018 black Kia Rio. They said his car is missing and has not been located. Now, only a matter of days after that search is going on in Texas, we actually have him found. Sergeant Henry Benjamin, one of the 2 missing Fort Hood soldiers about 20 members of the public searched for on Saturday, has been found. Quote, he is currently being held by civilian authorities in Covington, Louisiana, waiting for his unit to escort him back to Fort Hood, Fort Hood officials said via email. Wedel Morales' sister, Deanna Williams, organized the search and enlisted the help of the public. Once again, we're not getting very clean details on what happened here. Obviously, if the search happened in Texas and he's found in Louisiana, I don't know if those things are really connected to each other, but it could be that just raising the exposure, asking for help, raising that story to that level did in some way end up being the tip that got him found. Now, this sounds kind of to me like this might be an AWOL situation. They're talking about him being held by civilian authorities and they're going to escort him back to Fort Hood, but we can't take that with certainty. I did find a Facebook post here. Thank you to all the people that participated in the search on Saturday and all the news people that helped put this story out. I'm so very happy to say that Henry is safe and recovering in the hospital. I don't know what type of hospital we're talking about. I don't know if we're talking about physical injuries, if we're talking about something that he was going through emotionally. I'm just thankful his family has their answers and he's seemingly getting the help that he needs with whatever they are facing. So one of these disappearances we have wrap up, but unfortunately we don't have that for the other. 6 months later, family's still looking. He has made no payments on his car, missed his divorce, and missed a family tragedy, things his mother said he would never skip. Describing Greg, Kim Wedel says her middle son is kind and your typical good old boy. After Wedel disappeared, he was marked as AWOL, but after 30 days passed, they upgraded his status to deserter. Desertion carries a maximum punishment of dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all pay, and confinement of 5 years. An offender who is AWOL for 30 days automatically is considered to have deserted his or her post without proof of intent. They also said that if he is caught, Wedel will be transported back to Fort Hood to be court-martialed. Just days prior to vanishing, Wedel and his mother were discussing his future plans. Dreaming of a career in energy conservation, his mother said, so he had plans, just none of it makes sense. I've seen some interviews with her, and it seemed like he wanted to get into working on windmill systems, and it just seemed like he was gearing up for getting out of the military. It didn't seem like there was any particular problem, at least with the interview footage that I saw of his mother speaking about this. And once again, I'm struggling to wonder, 1 month, really? You couldn't have worked out the one extra month? I think his mom is just making an excellent point. This is probably not likely a deserter type situation. Since his disappearance, the Wedel family has fielded several extortion attempts, which were vetted by the FBI and deemed scams. Greg had bought a car prior to vanishing. His mother said no payments have been made, and he had just bought it the week before. That does make me wonder about some possibility. I mean, could he have picked up this car and said, hey, I finally got my wheels, but I'm just going to take off. I'm going to leave the country, something along those lines. I don't think we could rule it out 100%. Of course, I don't know him personally. I don't know his character, and I don't know what he's gone through in terms of him being on a military base, things that might have changed his perception of the world. But it is kind of strange to me that it's always strange to me when we're talking about a missing persons case and we have a vehicle that goes missing with the person. Just a vehicle is such a trackable object. It's got identifying marks all over it, even without a license plate. You know, there's a specific VIN number, possibly some electronic tracking. We've got a cell phone that we're also not hearing anything about. It's just, this is a very strange case to me. And I mentioned the case I talked about previously about the accident because I just want us to keep our minds open to there could be something else going on here. It might not be what it looks like on its face, and even kind of hearing about this process. You know, he's now gone from AWOL to being officially having his status upgraded, interesting use of terms, to deserter. It might be that he has no choice in this matter, and I just think that we should always stay open to that. So as I was looking into his case, I started hearing about this other case, and this one is really recent. This is a CNN article from April 27th, 2020, and here we have a picture of Vanessa Guillen. Vanessa Guillen, 20, was last seen in the parking lot of her barracks at the Fort Hood Army Post in Texas on April 22nd around 1 p.m., according to a news release from the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command, is what they're saying, but then they call it CID. I thought it was division, but I might have that wrong. Keys to her car and room were found in the armory where she was working earlier in the day, along with her identification card and wallet. So kind of interesting to me that all her main keys for her vehicle, keys to her room, and her ID, and her wallet, all that stuff is basically left behind kind of at her job. She's seen out in the parking lot. Now, this is around lunchtime. They're talking about 1 p.m. I don't know the location of where the armory is versus where her barracks are. I don't know if she was going back to her room to have lunch. That'd be kind of interesting because it seems that she forgot her keys back over in the armory. So that doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. Nancy Grace has done some coverage of this as well. Some really good points were brought up in that podcast. One of them is that she might have gone for a run. This is someone that was a runner. She liked working out. Her sister has been spreading a lot of information through the media. And the way that she was dressed might lead us to believe that she was actually going out for a run. But let's continue with a little more information. Guillen is a private first class, and we have another photo of her here. Like I mentioned before, there is a NamUs profile for her as well. Just not a ton of detail and not even a picture, unfortunately. 20 years old, stands between 5 feet to 5 feet 2 inches, weighs about 120 to 130 pounds. For race ethnicity, they have it listed as Hispanic. Date of last contact, April 22nd. The NamUs case was actually created fairly quickly. I'm really kind of surprised they couldn't even get a photo in here. For the circumstances on this one, PFC Guillen was working in the arms room that day and left behind her vehicle and room keys, as well as her identification and bank card in the arms room. She was last seen walking away from building 9420 Old Ironsides Avenue, Fort Hood, Texas, heading northwest. So it's interesting to me because we're kind of getting... It seems like the details are being muddled up just a little bit. Here is a map, and I can tell from the address they're giving us for the map, this certainly looks like a barracks type layout for me. At least that's my belief about what we're looking at with these buildings, just with the way that they're designed. And we're hearing in some other articles that she was actually close to her barracks. Her sister also kind of confirms that on the Nancy Grace information. We can see there's a parking lot. That's kind of across the street. There's other parking lots that are around what I believe are the barracks here. So I don't know which parking lot this sighting supposedly happened in. We don't know who had the sighting. The information that they did give was that she headed off north and west, I believe. So once again, it'd be super helpful to know where the armory is. I don't know if that's even publicly available information. Back to the NamUs profile. For physical description, black hair, brown eyes. They're saying no distinctive physical features, but her boyfriend has been speaking publicly as well. He says that she has 3 tattoos on one of her arms. We're going to get some better detail about that coming up. Clothing and accessories. PFC Guillen was last seen wearing a black t-shirt and purple fitness style pants. For footwear, suspected, I don't know why it's phrased like that, to be wearing running shoes identified as Nike Downshifter 7s, size 6 or 6.5. No transportation listed here because her car is effectively left behind. Her sister says that she did have, I believe it's a white Jeep Liberty at the time. So if we are thinking about the possibility that she was going for a run, I don't know what type of runner she is. There's a lot of people that are kind of lined up with a certain type of running. Some people like to run on roads. Other people like to run on trails. If she was running on roads and some type of accident happened or something like that, I think she would be pretty easily spotted. But it is worth noting that Fort Hood has a lot of land. There are some significant wilderness areas. I've been drilling in on these a little bit, and some of them are extremely dense. A lot of foliage. On top of that, we also do have a few water sources, something we're always considering with these cases. Around at least where her last sighting is, we can see that there is Birdbath Lake and there is also East Lake here. We have no idea about the search efforts, if anything has been done around that. On the Nancy Grace show, her sister did mention that the authorities at Fort Hood told her that they were taking some dogs out, so they were trying to track her scent. But that's about it. So yeah, not much to this NamUs profile. Let's jump over to the official release that came out at forthoodpresscenter.com. The 20-year-old Guillen was last seen at 1 p.m. on April 22nd in the parking lot of her Regimental Engineer Squadron headquarters. Her car keys, barracks room key, identification card, and wallet were later found in the armory room where she was working earlier in the day. She was last seen wearing a black t-shirt and purple fitness-type pants. Her sister was concerned about her what they're calling her wallet being found there. Her sister said that it was actually a bit more like a purse and something that typically she knew her sister to only wear like if she was going out somewhere, not something she would really just carry around in general. So honestly, her sister was kind of considering, did someone move her items for some reason? I don't know if that really lines up because information from her sister and her boyfriend is that she was indeed working earlier that day. She did speak to them or text with them earlier. So it seems kind of logical that her items would actually be where she said she was going to be working. I don't know. On top of that, her military occupational specialty is a 91F, small arms artillery repairer. Her home of record is Houston, Texas. Let's get some information from her sister over at people.com. The soldier's sister has also shared a series of emotional messages on social media. My sister, last seen 2 days ago, phone last tracked at Belton, Texas. No contact with boyfriend, close friends, or family, Myra Guillen said in a Facebook message on Friday. Something is not right. Please help me find her. So the area she's talking about, Belton, is here, almost 20 miles away. And there's something even more interesting that happens with that. Her sister on the Nancy Grace show says that that information kind of got retracted. And now they're saying, no, we didn't actually trace her phone over there. We have picked up another ping from her phone, but it was actually at Fort Hood just later in the day. It happened sometime after 5 p.m., which is kind of strange because her boyfriend and her sister are already kind of sending messages over and trying to get a hold of her. I don't know how the phone would have powered up to be able to connect to some network to give its location information. And the family have not noticed that because they were already kind of worried with what was going on here. It's possible that it was just a matter of timing, or if the phone is in some location where it's not getting a strong enough signal or something like that as well. Guillen's boyfriend, Juan Cruz, wrote his own message. Please help me find my girlfriend. She has 3 tattoos on her left arm, he added. Please, anything helps. Her sister says it plainly, and I think she's right on the nose. Something is not right. And I feel that with both of these situations, but in Vanessa's situation in particular, she's left everything behind. She doesn't have her vehicle with her. If what they're telling her sister is accurate, that her phone pings hours later, still on the base, it seems to me like this could be a situation, some type of accident that happened to her, and she just hasn't been found yet. On top of that, I think there is some possibility of some type of foul play situation going on here. I'd hate to think that that would happen on a military base and not be able to be discovered. I mean, we think of military bases as very secure. From things I'm seeing in comment threads about this case and some other comments that I heard from the Nancy Grace podcast, seems like maybe there's not as many cameras as you would expect a military base to have. But I would have to think that their entrance points at least have some form of camera. And I don't know if they're just talking about a camera that's like capturing the license plates in and out. I would think they would probably have something more than that. I've looked into cases before related to military kids more often that have gone missing. And in one of those cases in particular, it was a camera from the entry and exit point that actually caught a glimpse of the young person as they were leaving. So I'd be very surprised if they didn't have cameras at all the entry and exit points for for a base like this, but the comments that I'm seeing are actually kind of leaning in that direction. Some more information from her sister over at fox7austin.com. We keep in touch and we text, said Guillen's older sister, Myra. We have a sister conversation. We would share stuff with each other, she says. Myra says Vanessa stayed close to her family after being stationed in Fort Hood less than a year ago. She would often drive back to spend weekends at home. The Chavez High School graduate was reported missing after Myra's phone calls started going straight to voicemail and text messages started bouncing back. The Army Criminal Investigation Command says it's running extensive searches from the air and on the ground with the assistance of the FBI. Texas EquiSearch has also joined in, combing areas near Fort Hood, including trails leading up to the post. I'm so thankful to hear that. And knowing that Texas EquiSearch is on the case as well makes me believe if we are talking about some type of accidental situation, kind of something happening in the woods or something, we've just increased our chances greatly of her being found. The case has raised questions about another Fort Hood soldier who went missing in August and was labeled a deserter. Fort Hood officials confirmed that a $15,000 reward is now being offered in the search for Gregory Wedel Morales. The CID has also offered the same reward for information leading to Vanessa's location. Jumping over to crimeonline.com, her sister added that Guillen was actually very happy. You can see in every picture she was smiling. Her sister told NBC DFW that she felt something was off after Guillen sent a text message on April 22nd about going into work at about 9 a.m., then stopped all communication afterward. Her cell phone, which was apparently turned off by someone, is also missing. A little bit of an assumption in that statement because there's all kinds of reasons why a cell phone could stop working. Continuing with another article from Crime Online, the last time we spoke was on Tuesday afternoon, Guillen's sister Myra Guillen told Nancy Grace. Her boyfriend was the last one to speak to her on Wednesday before going into work. She was happier than ever. Everything was completely fine. It's unclear whether Guillen left the base, but death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan said had she left it, it should have been captured by security footage. I was kind of assuming the same thing, but the more comments I see on this case, I'm not positive. I'm a former soldier in Fort Hood right now. In the current state of affairs we are in right now, this post is essentially locked down. That's a comment from him. Myra, who visited her sister twice at Fort Hood, said she had to go through a security gate and visitor center, undergo a background check, and provide fingerprints before entry access. She said that her car was inspected each time for additional passengers. Morgan added that soldiers with identification and a Department of Defense vehicle sticker could likely leave the base by simply showing their ID without having their vehicles inspected. My concern is that she may have been obscured in a car, Morgan said. In a foul play situation, absolutely what I'm worried about as well. If something did go down there, I would figure the person would try to get her off site as quickly as possible. So I certainly understand and appreciate his concern. Guillen's boyfriend reportedly lives several hours away and has never visited her on base. He was at work when Guillen disappeared, Myra said. He's also been handing out flyers and taking an active role in trying to find her. Couple more details over at heavy.com. Fort Hood, as with many other places, has been under special shelter-in-place orders due to the outbreak. This includes not checking ID cards, but instead running entry onto the base through an automated ID scanner. In addition, no visitors have been allowed into the barracks or on-post housing during the pandemic. A curfew was set for 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. every day, with soldiers only allowed to travel outside of curfew hours for essential functions. So, in a way, it seems like it could theoretically be easier for people to come and go, especially if they're just using some automated ID card scanner, but that is also being tracked. I know that those systems track every single person that comes or goes and the exact time that they do that. And typically those systems are coupled up with some type of video surveillance. So once again, I'm just not quite sure what to think about the surveillance aspect. In terms of the curfew being set from 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. every day, with the time that we have her go missing, there's still plenty of hours left for someone to effectively remove her from the base if we are talking about a foul play situation. Let's get some more details on the tattoos. According to a missing person flyer shared by family, she has a mole on the left side of her chin and 3 tattoos on her left arm, a cross with a flower, and another flower on her left arm, and a mountain on her upper left shoulder. And here is a photo of at least one of the tattoos. It's the mountains you can see on her upper arm, and it looks like there's a sun right above the mountains as well. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find photos of the other tattoos that he mentions. Over at taskandpurpose.com, we get a little bit more detail about what is going on with the investigation. Chris Gray, spokesman for USA CID, told Task and Purpose that CID special agents have been working around the clock since the disappearance of Private First Class Guillen and are continuing to do everything in their power to determine where she is. They have conducted dozens of interviews, followed up on all credible investigative leads, and assisted with extensive searches by air and ground of Fort Hood. Army investigators are working alongside civilian authorities, including the FBI, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the Belton Police Department. They are committed to finding Private First Class Guillen and will not stop until they do, Gray said. They are encouraging anyone with information, no matter how insignificant it may seem, to come forward and contact Army CID, the military police, or their local law enforcement agency. And I do have contact information in the description box below, just in case you happen to be that person with the information. Please call it in and help this investigation. KXXV.com has another article. We can see that we've got people holding Bring Vanessa Home banners and family and friends trying to do everything they can. The last time Myra Guillen heard from her sister was when they texted each other. She was showing me some shoes she wanted to buy. We were talking about cars because her birthday would be September 30th, and she was really excited about purchasing a new vehicle for the first time on her own. Family and friends drove up from Houston to join on the search. They gathered at Fort Hood to hold up signs and hand out flyers. She's a very responsible person. I know she wouldn't just leave her stuff there. I know my sister. She wouldn't leave stuff there if she didn't know she wasn't coming back, Myra told KWTX. And I think Myra is making some good points here. I know I'm a runner. I know a lot of runners. People don't like taking their wallet, their keys, and all that kind of stuff. We're supposed to take like some form of ID, emergency contact information, cell phone, of course. But in general, you don't want to weigh yourself down with too much extra stuff. You just want to kind of, be free of all that while you're out for your run. So it makes sense to me that those items would have been left behind if her intent was to go for a run. We are talking about her wearing clothing that would suggest maybe she was going for a run. I don't know how long her lunch break is. I don't know if it's reasonable for her to go for a run and then come back to work, or would she have had to shower? Maybe that's why she winds up back near her barracks. But once again, if she doesn't have her key to get in there, what kind of sense does that make, unless she's got a roommate maybe that could let her in, something like that. A lot of very interesting considerations going on with this case, but unfortunately not a lot of details to help narrow those down and give us a bit of a better understanding. Flyers have been posted across Central Texas, and Facebook groups have been created in hopes of bringing Vanessa home safely. At this point, I just hope someone comes with a concrete answer. Not just, we're working on it, we're working on it. There has to be something, her sister said. And there is one other way that these two stories today connect, and that is now we have family, and there are some connections happening between the family of these two cases as well. Over at KWTX, it's been nearly 9 months since Fort Hood soldier Gregory Wedel Morales was last seen. Quote from his mom, "The only actual lead we found is my daughter-in-law found a Carfax report, and it showed it was inspected in Dallas in December." That's a very interesting lead. I do know that there has been some goofs on Carfax reports. They're not 100% reliable. A little slip of data entry in terms of that VIN number, and all of a sudden it could be that a service request is getting attached to someone else's record. So that's something I'm a little leery of, but certainly something worth investigating. I hope they've passed that information on to the investigators, and I hope that they've tried to follow up on that lead. Kim Wedel says that she has talked to Vanessa's sister, Myra Guillen. I feel for her family. I know how scary it is, especially in the first few weeks. Everybody is flooding you with what could possibly be. I hope they find her soon. I pray they have a happier ending than I have so far. Hope is getting harder to hang on to. My hope is just somebody will tell us where he's at, whether dead or alive, Kim said. Terrible, terrible consideration to hear from a family member like that, but you know that she has to be fearing that with how much time has passed. It's strange to think of a situation like that and say, you know what, I hope this is actually an AWOL situation, because in that case, at least he's alive and, you know, he could face whatever he needs to face. He can get through that and he can come out the other side of that and have a life. But I don't know. I will include a link for the Find Vanessa Guillen Facebook page down below. I didn't find one, unfortunately, for Gregory. So if you guys happen to see one, please include that in the comments, and I'll try to get that bumped up into the links down below as well. There is a GoFundMe that has been opened for Vanessa Guillen's case. Essentially, this is going to help her. You know, her sister is trying to stay in the area while this search is going on, so it's going to help her stay in the area. Of course, they have costs with everything that they're doing in terms of putting out posters and trying to help keep awareness raised to this, and they're trying to hire a private investigator. So we can see they're trying to raise $20,000. They're currently at $8,495. On behalf of myself and my amazing supporters through PayPal and Patreon, we are going to be making a donation to that GoFundMe just as soon as I am done filming here today. So what do you think, Brain Scratchers? The way this is boiling down for me, I think in Gregory's case, we're looking at one of two situations that are most likely. I think one of them is maybe that Gregory did actually leave for some reason. Maybe there's other things going on. We know his emotional landscape's probably pretty tough right now, going through a divorce, coming up to the end of something that is so regimented and regulated as being in the military. Maybe it was freaking him out, the thought of leaving in some way. I think that's a possibility we have to remain open to. I'm concerned that there could be something else, some type of accident that happened. And of course, there's always the possibility there is some type of foul play situation that is going on there as well. Vanessa's case, I'm really caught on the running thing. There's just something about that. The information that we have, as limited as it is, seems to be pointing fairly strongly in that direction for me. I wish we had more information about the last sighting. I wish we had details about, did it look like she was finishing her run, or did it look like she was just getting started for it? I wish we had the information about her work schedule, her shift. When was she's supposed to get back on the job? One other question that was answered by the Nancy Grace show was about her black shirt, and would that pass as a uniform for her to be at her job? And apparently if you wear a black shirt that has an Army logo on the front of it, that will actually pass for you to be at work. I don't know if the pants would. So, and who knows, it could be that she changed her clothes if she was going out for a run. But a lot of people were wondering about, shouldn't she be in uniform if she's, going to work? Apparently a black shirt can pass as a uniform. So, I don't know. Any other considerations? Let's talk about them in the comments down below. And I have some people I need to thank before we end today's video, starting with Little Tum, who increased their pledge. Thank you so much. Emma Nuttall also increased her pledge. Thank you, Emma. And we have new patron Liz B joining on Patreon. Thank you so much. If you want to support the channel, please head over to www.lordandarts.com, where you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, or buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, looking into these cases with you, trying to help these families that really need this help. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch on the Lord and Arts channel.